The Plein Easton podcast is brought to you by the Avalon Foundation, enriching the lives of those on the Eastern Shore of Maryland through the arts. Visit avalonfoundation.org for details on events, performances, and educational programming offered throughout the year.
Generally, if you get in a group of people who are sort of doing a similar thing, like a group of students in a life drawing class, for example, there tends to be more energy there than if it was just one person. We basically all understand each other very well.
Welcome to the Plein Easton podcast. My name is Marie Nuttall, and I am here with my friend and colleague, Jess Bellis. And today we spent some time talking to Plein Easton's 2025 Grand Prize winner, Martin Geiger.
I know, it was so fun. It was more fun than I thought. And here's why. I think out of all of our Grand Prize winners, I had spoken to Martin the least.
This is probably true. And in his defense, he is one of the newer artists to come to us.
Totally.
So this is a great opportunity to learn more about him. And he's such a soulful person. It feels like you're in the presence of something great.
Please enjoy our interview with Martin Geiger, and we'll see you again next month with more exciting news and conversations from your friends at Plein Easton. Martin, you are our grand prize winner for 2025. Was that surprising? Was it fun? Can you characterize that moment?
It was certainly fun. It's satisfying when what I find is compelling to everyone else too. So that was very nice. I guess we can't show the pictures of the painting here, but for anyone, I guess we'll Google it. I spent a lot of time.
Nick will.
We'll pop it up.
Yeah, we'll pop it up so we know.
Pull it right up.
So we know what we're talking about.
But I actually worked on that painting at least 4 times. So I was from the beginning. I was compelled. Meaning
in 4 sessions, or yes, you went back to the same place 4 times.
Same place 4 times.
I
guess both.
During the same time of day, walk me through how you found yourself there.
So I think I sort of discovered this spot last year. It's this particularly interesting old house, just a block from the headquarters in Easton, really. And last year during the quick draw, I discovered it and got excited about it. And so I kind of knew I wanted to paint it coming back this year. So then I sort of took a day, or I think about a day, to sort of scout out the location, see what it looked like in the morning versus the afternoon. And pretty quickly I realized I wanted to paint it. I got my time. I think it was about 2 p.m. when I would go there. Really
in the heat of the day where you could be the most miserable? Was that the idea?
I like that time of day oftentimes. And so it's generally hot when the weather is hot.
When you were walking around and looking at it and deciding, were you sketching or were you just using your eye and thinking about your composition?
That's a good question. I think I began pretty much by just sort of wandering around and looking. So at the very outset of sort of finding a painting or finding a painting location is always very intuitive for me. But especially if I do get excited, like I did with this, I will then do a handful of sketches or pencil drawings or thumbnails, just to explore sort of what either things that I know I might struggle with, or just things I'm excited about that I want to flesh out before I pull out the paints.
Because this grand prize winning painting is a fairly large painting as it relates to sort of a common misconception that most plein air paintings are small. So when you're kind of committing to go big, you got to kind of know what you're going to do, right?
Now, I don't actually consider that painting terribly large for me. I guess it's medium size, but given the time constraints, that's true. I do kind of need to go for what I can't wait around for it to finish itself.
Right.
And so that's one thing about the drawings at the beginning, actually, that I was excited about, because I enjoy doing the sort of preparatory drawing work before paintings. That they oftentimes turn out better that way. But usually with plein air events, I just get impatient and say, I'm just going to start, something like that. But this time I was like, no, I'm going to do the proper work, even if it means an afternoon of just drawing. And it worked out.
I was going to say that paid off. Huh?
Yeah. So it was just another reinforcement for me of doing my homework.
When you were finished, did you say to yourself, this is a really good painting? Did you know?
That's boss.
It's okay if the answer is no, but sometimes artists are like, I knew that I knocked it out of the park. Like for me, this was a really solid painting. I mean, obviously you thought it was worthy enough to take one of your competition slots, so you didn't think you weren't disappointed in it, or you would not have chosen it as one of your competition paintings. But did it speak to you, or just kind of you felt satisfied enough?
Yeah, I mean, I think generally I know when it's at least pretty good, when I've given it my best shot, and it hasn't fallen apart, and so that I can identify pretty well. But I think oftentimes when I'm excited about a painting, it sort of continues indefinitely into the future. So like even when I turned it in, I was still thinking like it would be nice to bring it out again, or to look at it. Like it feels like there's more that the scene or the painting can give, and I'm not sure if that's the same intuition, or I'm just getting kind of manic about it. But usually I feel that way when I'm with paintings I've worked on for a while that turn out pretty well. So I guess that's the best I've got for that one.
That's like a familiar feeling that you get about the painting or the process.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm not sure what it means, but that's oftentimes how I feel about it.
Yeah. Well, it lends to that intuitiveness. Yeah, in finding the spot, and the intuitiveness in a completed work, too.
I'm somebody who really does like to start at the beginning. So, like, Martin, did you feel an artistic calling from when you were a child? Did you grow up always painting or sculpting or doing, or is it something that came later? Did you grow up in an artistic space or place? Like, talk to me about how were you made? What's your origin story?
Yeah. So both of my parents are painters, and I think that's as close to the origin as you can get. I think, right off the bat. So they're both observation painters. So my mother paints more still lives. Now she did do landscapes, I think, at one point, but then my father paints a lot of interior spaces with figures in them. So Philip Geiger is my dad's name. Elizabeth Geiger is my mother's name, for anyone who's curious.
Yeah. And
so that from the outset just made it, I think, just accessible.
Yeah.
To me, it was clear that it's like this is appropriate for work, like it was so matter of fact, I guess is what I mean. They just got up and they had their studio time. They went in their studio, and the way that other parents, I'm sure, went to their job and back. And so I'm sure I took it for granted a fair bit when I was a kid. And I don't know that me or my sister did a ton of drawing. We did some, but the funny thing was that about when I was 16, and this is so for my sister too, it's just the two of us, we both decided around when we were 16, we got really, really interested in the arts. And so that was, before then, I just sort of assumed I'd do something else. And I did a bit of art and drawing every now and again, but then just something about that time for both of us, it just clicked, yeah. And so then pretty quickly it became clear we were into it. Yeah, it didn't take too long before then we were about to graduate from high school, so then we started looking at art schools, and then I went to the Pennsylvania Academy of Fine Arts, Philadelphia. My sister went to Pratt. My sister name's Helen Geiger, by the way.
Is she an artist too?
She is, yeah.
That's a kind of unique story, actually, that you all landed in that art space.
So my sister branched out a little bit because she majored in a little more like children's book illustration, and there was some graphic design background there. For anyone who knows Pratt, that's sort of their wheelhouse. But it's so similar to what we do, especially children's book illustrations. There's no clear line between that and painting. So
of course not.
We all kind of share this visual language that we're interested in. And then art school was just sort of a flurry of, being exposed to all these things and meeting other people and artists that just kind of reinforced our sense of being called to do this. So, I think that's the origin.
Yeah, in your DNA and that supported all the way through.
Yeah.
Right.
Super cool.
Right. So your parents weren't like, what is this art you talk about? You can't be successful at that. They're like, right on.
Yeah. Like again, they already had like carved out the space for themselves where they could be successful doing it, and or they could sustain themselves financially and stuff.
That's fantastic.
That I think, in addition to just like the fact that they would be supportive, that they also they identify themselves with the craft too. So it's almost like a family business, I guess. I don't know.
Well, and I don't think you can discount that kind of exposure. Like, it's not just about the DNA. It's about, there are plenty of people who, as children, never get to lay their eyes on real fine art. They don't get to see it in real life. They may only get to see it in books.
Right.
To be immersed in a space where it's being created, where it's on your walls, where it's sort of, again, part of your daily life. I think it gets into you in a different way than not having that exposure at all.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That's a cool story. So you graduated from college, and then you were like, now what? You're like, I'm an artist. I've been an artist since birth, but now I'm an artist. And now what? Now what?
Me and my sister both came back to the town where my parents are living, Staunton, Virginia.
Yep.
It's a nice small town. It's very paintable, actually, and I think that's maybe what drew me there.
I'm a Hokie, go Virginia Tech, and I grew up in Northern Virginia, so I'm very familiar with Staunton because you have to drive through it.
Yeah.
To get I've been through Staunton about 1 million times. It was about my halfway mark, really. From home to home. So the Southwest Virginia is just a gorgeous, gorgeous place.
It really, really is.
Yeah. And so that only helped with sort of, like where am I going to paint stuff I like looking at it wasn't a question for me when I went back there. And it's let's see, I guess after school, I did have a sort of a question of like, what am I going to be doing now? I know I can keep painting, but then I think the next step for me was that the next town over, there was a figure drawing session that was being run weekly, and I went over there because I missed the figure drawing practice because we got a lot of that in school. And then the man running it is a sculptor named Robert Blicker, and he runs a bronze foundry space in a town that's closer to Staunton than where I was. And so he needed an employee. He had a deadline he had to meet. He needed someone who can bang on things with hammers and lift heavy things and stuff. So he enlisted me just sort of because I was there. He was just kind of desperate. And but then it turns out he had actually, he was maybe 30 years older than me, but he had gone to what's considered the sister school to the Pennsylvania Academy in Philadelphia. And so we shared a surprising amount of sort of artistic background and just the way that we learned art and the people, maybe the names we knew. So pretty quickly we got kind of tight, and then eventually he gave me a studio space up there in this foundry space. And that's where I'm still there. And it was a really great opportunity because it's a really nice building. It's this old textile mill. So there are these big north-facing windows that were built. So originally, I think people could see what they're doing with their fingers. But it's great for painters, and sculptors and all us visual people. And that was a really good deal because it's sort of almost exactly what I was looking for.
Yeah. Sort of marries it all together.
Yeah, that's good.
That's wonderful.
And
serendipitous connection.
Yeah, that really, I think, set me up in a big way.
And you're still there, right?
I'm still there. Yeah. And so that was maybe about 5 years ago that happened. So that I think that kind of tied me to this town in Virginia. Like I had more of apart from just my family being here, that's just one more way I'm set up here.
It's a very unique opportunity. You don't find yourself happening upon a lot of foundries. Yeah, there's not a lot of them just around. Yeah, it's kind of unique. That's really awesome. Talk to me about how you found your way to the plein air painting circuit. I'm sure that you had learned a lot about plein air painting when you were in college, but were you aware of this crazy, let's compete in painting? Was it something, how aware were you? How did you find yourself in that place or space?
I think it was the magazine first that I became aware of. I think it was, the school subscribed to it, so it was in the library section. So I think I just seen it at first, and you could piece together what it's about pretty easily. And so I had an awareness of that. And what did happen? I think that there actually may have been a very local, one of these very small startup competitions that
I think there is one out.
I
think there's one in. There's one in
Virginia.
Yeah, but there might even be one in Stanton or Harrisonburg.
There was one.
Yeah.
And it died during COVID, but still, I had enough sort of exposure to know that these things were around. And then I can't remember. I think a year maybe after I went to school, I went to one that was very close by, and I did pretty well.
And when you say do well, do you measure well in terms of sales, in terms of awards, in terms of self-satisfaction of work created? What does well mean in your eyes?
Probably all of those things factor in. It's, if my work wasn't turning out well during events, I probably wouldn't do them. But something about the time scale, it worked for me. And then sales and awards always make it more lucrative.
Correct.
Too. So then that's always factored in. So I think all of those things were working out for me. I liked the work I was making, and other people seemed to like it too. So then I was satisfied with that. And this was, I think, a very small event, by the way. It was $500 prize and things like that. But yeah, it was exciting, and it was
enough to whet your appetite, pique your interest.
Yeah. Sure. The other painters liked what I was doing, so then that's always very reassuring. So then a year or two after that, don't quote me on these dates, but I think it was a year or two after that I eventually, I did a couple more small events, and then I went to, I suppose this is my first sort of full-sized event, was in New Bern, North Carolina.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the one that's still running today with Kippi Hammond. And then I went there, and I was still unsure whether this was something to pursue or not, but I figured I might as well give it a shot. And then they gave me a Best in Show award, and all the other painters were very supportive, and they really liked what I was doing. And I sold some paintings, and so then it made it seem like this was something that I could sustain doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that maybe that was 4 years ago. I'm still.
It's okay.
Something like that.
Time is really hard for me to quantify too. So I'm like maybe that was yet last year, maybe that was like 7 years ago. It gets kind of mushy. So I can really identify with your struggle, but I like sort of the progression anyway. Your order of operation is correct. So the years don't
it's
wildly
in the correct
matter.
Order.
Yeah.
And I think that was this New Bern event a couple of years ago was, I think, the thing that made me apply to many events the year after that, including Easton. That was, I think, the first year I came, I got the artist choice.
Yeah.
That was this was then, I think, 3 years ago.
Yeah, I can confirm that timeline. That was 3 years ago.
Okay. All right, good. And then the rest, I think, is just I just sort of continue to do the events and find success and meet new painters and on all the great stuff that happens at the events. So I think that's more or less the timeline for me with the plein air world.
Martin, what do you think keeps you coming? I mean, I like to the events or to apply to new events. Like, I know winning Artist Choice at Plein Air Easton gets you an automatic invite, so you already have an invite. But like, is it the camaraderie? I mean, of course, you're able to make income and sales and things like that. But is there anything like deeper that just resonates with you, I guess, about getting together with colleagues and meeting new people? Like, is there anything in that for you?
Yeah. It's I guess one thing about art school that's sort of underrated is that generally if you get in a group of people who are sort of doing a similar thing, like a group of students in a life drawing class, for example, there tends to be more energy there than if it was just one person. Mm-hmm. And that's always exciting because it's not very often that you can like really relate to people when you're doing this. Like people who don't paint, for example, very often they're nice, but there's certain things that you can't quite communicate because they haven't had brush in hand for X number of hours and they haven't spent a bunch of time looking at a blank wall or something. But with this, despite the fact that there is a variety of different artistic styles that people bring here, we basically all like understand each other very well. Me and the other artists, I guess, just because we have this shared practice, and that's, in my experience, that's usually when people get almost the tightest is when they really share something they spend a lot of time doing, kind of shared work, and that's very satisfying because you can just you don't have to wonder like, is this person gonna know what I mean when I say like the sun wasn't cooperating today? Yes, they're gonna know what I mean.
Right.
And that's not something you find every day.
It's like being in the trenches together. I mean, like that is like
and it's like going to a convention. Like it's it's there's
exciting. A lot to be said for shared experience.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
No, I think that's true. Are you painting to win, painting to sell, or painting because you just can't not paint?
I don't think I can not paint at this point. I don't know. Well, it's definitely a compulsion. So I put that first. I do, even when I'm sort of swamped with chores back at home. It's, it bothers me when I don't have quite the time to apply myself to painting. And that's always kind of been true. So I always compare it a little bit to an addiction as much as a passion. I think that's actually kind of accurate. You know, like you spend all your money on this crap to help you continue this habit, and you know, it's overpriced, and no one else gets why you're doing it. But so yes, I'd say that primarily it's an itch at this point. And I'm not sure. I know, like I'll hear people say things like that, like, "Are you painting to get awards or painting to sell things?" And I'm not sure what that means.
Okay.
I'm not sure if I could do that. And it may just be that I'm very confident in my own aesthetic or something. But I guess I paint to win, in that I want my paintings to be good.
Mm-hmm.
Good answer.
But I think that's about it. You know, like I would struggle to even know what would be like, all right, how would I make a saleable painting? Like I could probably figure it out, but I don't know. It's so intuitive for me that might be very difficult.
That makes sense.
Yeah, exactly.
I think we should take a break. When we come back, I'm sure Marie has some really great questions to ask our grand prize winner for 2025, Martin Geiger. I'll be back in just a minute.
Producer of the pod, Nick Richards here, inviting you to check out the newly redesigned Plein Easton website. PleinAirEaston.com contains all of the festival information that you'll need to plan your visit to Plein Easton, including a dynamic festival calendar that features all of the demonstrations, paintouts, parties, and exhibitions available during the festival. Perhaps the most dynamic section of the new website is our archive of our past festivals. Each year showcases the judge and juror of that year, the 58 juried artists that participated, a gallery of the award-winning paintings, a list of additional awards for our supplementary events, and videos of the award announcements and the jurors' talk for the years that they are available. The new Plein Easton website features over 100 hours of media content, including all of the back episodes of the Plein Easton podcast. For the 11 months out of the year when you can't participate directly in our art festival, you can still steep yourself in demonstrations, time-lapse videos, and the philosophy of top-tier artists through our podcasts and videos. There are plenty more features of PleinAirEaston.com, so take a moment to relive your favorite Plein Easton memories, discover something new about one of our juried artists, and plan your visit to the Plein Easton Arts Festival and Competition this July.
Are we considered back? Are we back?
No, we're not. Now I'm going to welcome us back. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Plein Easton podcast. We're here again with Martin Geiger. And Marie, what do you got for us?
I want to know more about the process. One of the things that came up for me when you were speaking, painting is a very solitary kind of sport, career, calling. Is it something that, like, can you not be disturbed, or is that kind of do you get so in the zone that if somebody, like, you know, a tourist comes by is like, oh, hey, tell me about your drawing or something? Is that like, I'm in the zone? Because we tell people all the time, go talk to the painters. They love talking to you. Maybe we should say not Martin. Don't bother him.
Well, yeah, I don't think I generally love interruptions. But when you're outside, I'm pretty used to it. Like I think I've sort of gotten over like a real irritation. I used to get bent out of shape a lot when I was younger and just learning how to paint, and I was clearly struggling when I was out there and stuff. At this point, I've just done it so many times that it's not challenging to sort of get with people, speak to people who come up to you. Most people can put together that I'm not there to chit chat, and then I can just tell people if they want. But yeah, I think I probably prefer less folks talking. But yeah, there are only so many times it can happen before you just sort of make peace with it.
Yeah. Or you could be one of those artists that selects spots that you can't really be found very well.
Yeah, one or the other.
Right. Tell me about who were your alive or passed on kind of painting professionals that you looked up to?
The funny thing is that the painting, the painting culture in the Pennsylvania Academy when I was there in Philly, they do have a specific painting culture. Specifically there that I got a lot out of. There are some folks, I think specifically who I studied with, a painter named Scott Noel, a painter named Peter Van Dyke, both teaching at the Academy. Maybe I'd cite them as closest to my work. But I got a lot out of the school there. There's a particular focus on working from observations and stuff you're looking at, which connected to me. There's a focus in particular on sort of design and composing that I think I got a lot out of. That's maybe different than a lot of maybe other places or schools or areas of the art world where plein air painting is a focus. Those two things, it tends to be either you like looking at stuff or you're maybe an abstraction designer that does that. But this was sort of pairing both of them against each other, which was kind of difficult, but I think I got a lot out of it. And the funny thing about this school is that my parents are also sort of in that orbit too. So not only were they aware of the school and they supported it, but their work is sort of connected to those priorities too. And they know many of the painters who teach there. And so it was this funny experience of when I was in art school, there wasn't a clear boundary to me between art school and coming home. Because there was just this, we just shared our understanding of painting very well. So I don't know, that's not a ton of names, but that's a lot. That was, I think, very formative for me. Because in particular, the school, I think that's where I got a lot of
influence. So, Martin, if we are launching a new segment that is called Stories from Behind the Easel, and we wanted to poke behind your easel, do you have a story or a thought that you might add to our library of stories from behind the easel?
Boy, I mean, it's almost when I was in Philadelphia, I drew and painted on the street a fair bit, and it's possible that may have just flooded me so much that I don't remember a ton of stories. But
it's just I can sort of draw back.
It was a new and unique episode.
It's blurring very much. But I will say that usually the things that I remember are oftentimes not the stories of either difficulties or things I don't know if I'll remember if my painting almost blows away and gets messed up maybe, but funny things jump out at you when you're painting. I found that I remember things that I certainly wouldn't in any other situation. And I notice things, and it becomes important.
Can you give an example of that?
There's just kind of wild things that it makes me wonder how much it's sort of, this stuff is just always happening. People just don't notice. But for example, I'd be out in some residency in the woods in Pennsylvania a couple of years ago, and I saw an eagle catch a snake and carry it off, right in front of me, and just like things that you don't think are going to really happen, but then you say, "Oh, look over there," and then just gradually, like generally people on the street, if they're talking to you, they'll oftentimes tell you stuff about their life. Which is, there's so much of it, and I don't remember because I don't know them, but it's oftentimes very startling, and half the time they'll tie it into the arts in a way that's like clearly meaningful to them. And so just the number of people who I've interacted with who just get so excited when they see you painting has always been really interesting. Like that stood out, I think, to me. Almost because it happens so frequently. It's usually the case if someone's talking to you that they're into it. And that is maybe not an anecdote, but it really reinforces the sense of like there's something important that I'm doing. I'm doing something for these people. Like they seem like there's a pep in their step after they see me out painting. So.
No, I think that's a perfect answer. And what I would say is, I think that if you are out and creating artwork, you are showing vulnerability, which is something that not everybody does. And so when you are presenting yourself as vulnerable because you're creating something, you're putting yourself out there in that way, it allows people to greet you in a more open way, because you are already showing them that you are more open than maybe the average person that they are interacting with. That would be my interpretation of what you're saying, because it takes not just a certain amount of like bravado or pride or confidence in what you're doing to be doing that in a public space, but you are actually putting yourself out there in a way that not everybody would, and so I think that there is vulnerability in that.
I think that's true.
That was my Cliff Notes interpretation of your story from behind the easel. I like to ask everybody, and you seem like you're a pretty even keel guy, I have to say, Martin. You seem like a pretty steady force. Have you been through dark periods, or do you ever find yourself feeling uninspired, where you're like, I should be creating art, but I just am not feeling it. I'm low, I'm down. And if so, if that's happened to you, like, how did you shake that? What do you do?
I have the flu.
I'm not really talking about the flu, Marie. I'm talking about
I would certainly feel down.
Maybe mental flu is what I'm talking about.
Going through that, I would feel down and not be able to pick up a brush. But
I don't know if I've conquered physical illness yet. So that I tend to put the brush down for that. But
all attention.
I think you're right about that. Is that this is it? It's such a solitary practice to make art that if you're preoccupied in any way, you're going to notice when you're painting. So yeah, I mean, certainly, especially when I was in art school and maybe when I was a bit younger, I really just threw myself into my work, and I think that was sort of part of how I at least began. Was that I'd get like very depressed or angry or anxious and stuff, and that was usually how I dealt with it. Was I just sort of like threw myself into my work early on, and that for a while it worked, and then it's sort of like a younger man's tactic a little bit, because I had enough energy that worked. And then now it's just, slowly I just start to flesh out other areas of my life and, friend groups and support systems and things like that. And so I think for me, it's almost a gradually detached the painting practice a little bit from sort of any degree that it was like a coping thing for me, which it was, and I think even to some degree it's probably always going to be. There's something very satisfying and present about doing this that I think is probably just overlaps all the time with mental health and things like that. I generally feel better in general after I paint mentally, but yeah, I'm not sure if that answered your question.
It's a fine answer.
Hit all the different parts. Okay.
Yeah, there are really no wrong answers on the Plein Easton podcast that I've come across. Okay. So no, I think that works. What advice would you give to someone who maybe is thinking about entering one of these plein air painting competitions, whether it's one of the small, more regional or local ones that you started finding your way to, or whether it is putting your hat in the ring and going to one of the more major, overwhelming ones? Do you have any advice for somebody who's like, oh, should I try that? What?
So I think every now and again, with either demonstrations or maybe when I'm teaching a class or just someone comes up to me on the street, they'll bring that up of, I like painting, I like art, I like painting stuff I look at, but this word competition sort of can be off-putting for people sometimes. And I'd probably say that, well, for one thing, if everyone's gathered together to paint landscapes, there's only so cutthroat it's going to be. These are not, this is not Gordon Gekko that you're going to be painting next to. These are people who like, painting pictures of trees and farms and things like that. So it's about as laid back as any kind of competition can be and still be a competition. In terms of just the attitude, there really isn't a sense I've ever gotten of being either unwelcome or like a new person. I don't know, a new person there getting like sort of elbowed out because there's just people are just cliquish or something like that. I haven't really seen much of that. People are generally very welcoming, and especially if they're painters who have done this for a while and who are quite good at this. It's almost like the better you get at it, the more you want to invite more people into the world with you. And that's what I've seen. So I'd say if there's anyone listening who is considering entering one of these things, I don't consider there to be really any downside apart from just that it can sometimes be punishing for you to not maybe win anything. But that to me is the only thing by and large that I think stops people. I think a lot of people get nervous and it's mostly in their own head. Mm-hmm. So I'd say like, go, people are going to be welcoming to you. Like painters want more people painting.
Well, and it's a space. It's a space to grow, even if you don't necessarily achieve whatever your financial goals are. I think when you are kind of putting yourself in the competition mind space, it is always an opportunity for growth or exploration. So, or at least I would hope.
That's what I consider competition really to be. Is right. When I feel the sort of competitive aspect. It's really just excitement, it's saying like, I'm excited and these other people are excited to do this and I want to see what other people do at the end. And right. Because there's this energy, you'll it's like a push. Go for things.
It's a momentum push that you might not necessarily get if it's a, Thursday afternoon in beautiful Virginia and you're like going outside to paint. It's beautiful, but you might not be feeling that same push to try harder, do more, really find the right thing. It gives you that extra sort of oomph.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And that's basically all I've seen from like the competitive aspect. It's just that it's an energy that it's an excitement, like it's not, I don't know that anyone has the attitude of like, I hope other painters fail this week so that I can like take their money, I haven't seen it yet. Maybe there are people out there, but I don't think that there are many.
I have not come across that myself either. So, yeah. and I've been doing Plein Air Easton for 22 years. So
thank goodness we're not attracting those clowns.
Right. Not a lot of cutthroat behavior. That's for sure. Marie, do you have anything else in particular to ask?
I have got some silly questions I would ask just to get to know. Do you have any pets?
Yeah, I have 2 cats.
I know. I heard. Guess what?
Yeah.
Guess what?
I heard meow.
I heard a meow. I could have even guessed that because I did hear a cat wanting to also join the podcast.
I didn't know if it was his cat. Or... Yes.
Yeah, I've had them since I was in art school, and they're 2 cats that I guess they're called tuxedo cats. Black with the little white their chin, and we call them boy and girl, basically. They're brother and sister. We had other names for them, but they just didn't stick. So we call them boy and girl.
Perfect.
Exactly. Tell me about, can you give us a reference for a good book that you have read recently? Are you a book reader?
I think my book reading habit has been kind of eroded. But I do listen to stuff.
Okay.
Not really when I paint, but when I'm mostly chores and things.
What are we listening to?
It's a little all over the place, but I guess there was, I think Watership Down was something I listened to.
All those rabbits.
Yeah, it's a surprisingly dark kind of children's tale.
No, I have some really poor memories of that book, I have to say. From AP English, like my senior year, I was like, what in the world?
Yeah, it's kind of rough.
It is really rough.
Fluffy bunnies jumping up and down.
You never really look at all those rabbits in your yard the same way after reading Watership Down, man. This is tough.
Mm-hmm. But that's I think one of them. There is a book. It's not in the original Lord of the Rings, but it was sort of it was written as like a predecessor called the Silmarillion. It was J.R.R. Tolkien, and that's another one that I liked. I guess I'm kind of on a fantasy kick right now. So there's things like that.
Many of us have to read escapist things right now, I must say. I don't think you're the only one locked into...
Yeah, probably not.
Exactly. My reading list is like a funnel. It's like gotten down to like just these 2 categories. You get like 5 paragraphs before you either make it or break it. Do you travel much? Do you have a favorite like travel spot that you have been to or that is on your bucket list?
It's funny. I think I find that the traveling tends to sort of excite my interest in painting. Like I tend to get excited about painting stuff a little more when it's a new place, but I don't actually enjoy traveling. Okay. So oftentimes it's just these events that I'll be traveling for. Easton, Cape Ann, Massachusetts. I'm just gearing up to go there.
I was going to say, isn't that happening right now? Should you get going? Isn't that right now?
A day or 2, but that's a nice place. But they're all places like New Bern, North Carolina. But Wayne, like places where there are events. That's where I tend to travel. And then otherwise, I just sort of stay local in Virginia.
Would you ever do one of those like paint in Italy, paint in France with one of your comrades? Or they would have to really ante up something to make it worth your while.
They might have to drag me into it.
He's young. He's not going to never say never. He's not going to say never.
I wasn't looking for a never.
I don't know if I'm hostile to it, but it might have to. Yeah, like I sort of have a block about shipping painting supplies. I've never quite figured that out yet. So
I don't ever think about the logistics stuff.
Yeah, I think that's the most. That's the thing that would be in the way.
That would be tedious, unless you're going to that place in France where they handcraft those like pastels or something like that. I feel like if you were a pastel artist, that would be cool to see.
Before we let you go, Martin, I'm going to put you on the spot and say we don't invite many people back for Plein Air Easton. It's just our top prize winners, of which you are one. So you'll come back to Plein Air Easton in 2026, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And you said that you had already sort of scoped out the bed and breakfast where you painted the grand prize winning painting. Do you have things in Easton? You don't have to tell us what they are, but do you have things in Easton or in Talbot County that are already sort of percolating in your mind that are calling back to you? Or are you coming in 2026 with a clean slate? Because you sort of said that like that house was calling to you from Quick Draw the prior year. You sort of knew that you felt some inspiration there. Do you have other inspiration touchstones?
It's funny. I think I collect them when I go back to a place for several years. So I think usually I don't immediately have. I don't necessarily assume that I'm going to. Like with this painting of the house, I said I was going to scope it out, but if I had shown up and been like, like I wouldn't have painted it. But I will say. There's a local pool that I always have seen. I can't remember exactly what road it's on. It's right next to sort of a bigger road, I think, that wraps around Easton.
Yeah, that would be the Moton swimming pool.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
This is a little insider information. Since my son has been one of the head lifeguards there the last 3 years, it's actually called the George Murphy Pool, and we like to call it the Murph. Actually, we warmly call that public pool the Murph. So the Murph is maybe calling to you a little bit.
So you can name that.
Yeah. The last year or two, I haven't painted it yet, but I always had my eye on it, and then I had just found my other things to paint by that time. But it's kept in being in the back of my mind, and I think probably next year is the time to jump on it.
Spoiler alert, he could be at the Murph.
Yeah.
The cute lifeguard is my son, just so you know. Not trying to push him as a model or anything, but just know if you're looking for. I was gonna say he's the one in the red shorts, but they all
sitting at the lifeguard station.
Very tan.
Always very tan. Always.
He doesn't move unless he has to make a save. So. Exactly. It's a good subject.
I like the lifeguards for that reason. I've painted in pools before.
I was going to say
they're the ones who won't move.
Yeah, they're pretty good models. Martin, thank you so much for participating here on our return to podcast land, and also for attending our event over the last 3 years. You bring such a unique and youthful lens to plein air painting. I know a lot of people have really enjoyed getting to know you and your work, and this was a fun opportunity for me to talk to you because I feel like we have not shared a lot of space. We haven't shared a lot of space. So thank you for joining us today, Martin. It's been great.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me. It was a pleasure.
Awesome. And congratulations again, big winner.
I know.
Thank you.
Ooh, ooh.
The Plein Air Easton podcast is brought to you by the Avalon Foundation and was produced by Nick Richards. Our theme music was generously provided by Blue Dot Sessions, with additional episode music by Scott Gratton. Remember to rate, comment, and subscribe. You can learn more about Plein Air Easton at pleinaireaston.com.